This lesson will familiarize you with the avionics specific to the Sikorsky UH-60 Black Hawk helicopter. Let's begin. Now, the first thing you'll notice is that all of the cockpit gauges are analog. The Black Hawk, being a utility helicopter, also lacks a heads-up display, so you'll need to be familiar with all of the gauges and their locations. As the pilot in command, you'll be flying in the right-hand seat. The radar altimeter shows you your height above ground. This gauge is useful during low-level flights and only displays up to 215 feet above ground level. There is also a secondary digital readout on this gauge. The barometric altimeter displays your altitude above sea level. The gauge is scaled from 0 to 1,000 feet. This counter shows your altitude in 1,000-foot increments. The vertical speed indicator shows your rate of climb or descent. When the gauge is centered, you are either hovering or maintaining level flight. Rate of descent or climb is displayed in units of hundreds of feet per minute. Take a look at this cluster of gauges. These instruments show you information relating to the engines and rotor. Engine RPM is shown on the left and right sides. Rotor RPM is displayed in the middle. Notice how these gauges are scaled over 100%. 100% torque is the maximum amount of torque the engines can safely generate under normal operating conditions. You can, however, pull more than maximum torque, giving you extra lift in emergency situations. Now, when this happens, these rotor overspeed lights will activate from left to right at rotor speeds of 127, 137, and 142%. Once activated, a latch prevents it from going off until reset by the ground crew. Okay, let's go ahead and start the engines and prepare for takeoff. To start the engines, press the R key. Okay, good. Gradually increase torque until the aircraft begins to climb. To increase torque, use the plus key. The amount of torque being applied is shown here. As you climb, watch your VSI in both altimeters and see how they change in relation to your current altitude. Now continue climbing and come to a hover at 200 feet. Okay, now that we're airborne, let's continue talking about the flight instrumentation. This is the Vertical Situation Indicator, or VSI. The VSI shows the aircraft's pitch and roll attitude, turn rate, and displays certain navigational information. The artificial horizon shows your aircraft's pitch and roll orientation relative to the ground. The miniature airplane represents your aircraft and is the reference point for determining pitch and roll on this display. The Horizontal Situation Indicator, or HSI, works in conjunction with the VSI to provide the pilot course and heading information. The compass shows which direction you are currently headed. The course deviation bar will show you the lateral deviation to the waypoint. When the bar is lined up with the course set pointer and centered on the airplane symbol, you are on course. The to from arrow indicates whether you are traveling toward or away from the current waypoint. Okay, let's move out. Pitch down to gain airspeed and continue to the waypoint. When traveling between waypoints, there are several autopilot modes you can use. The autopilot system, known as a CISP, or Command Instrument System Processor, is located here. The first mode we'll talk about is called heading mode. Heading mode will maintain your current heading by taking over pitch and roll commands to keep you flying on your current course. To activate the autopilot, press the A key. Navigation mode is the next autopilot mode we'll talk about. Activate the autopilot by pressing the A key. When this mode is selected, you will be put on a course that will take you to the next waypoint. That's all for the autopilot system. Simple, right? Continue to the next waypoint and pull to a hover on a route. Okay, pull to a hover. Thank you. Like I said earlier, this variant of the Black Hawk is used primarily as a utility helicopter. You do, however, have some ability to defend yourself. During missions, you can call upon the door gunner to help protect the aircraft. The door gunner mans either an M60 machine gun or an M134 minigun. These weapons are useful for suppressing enemy troops or light, unarmored vehicles. Let's try some target practice. To switch to the door gunner position, press the numpad insert key. Alright, you are now manning the door gun. To shoot, aim the gun at your target and pull the trigger. Scattered around you are clusters of targets. See if you can hit them. Take as much time as you need for target practice. When you're finished, press the escape key. Okay? Now I'll talk about the defensive systems aboard the aircraft. The most important piece of equipment is the APR-39 radar warning receiver. The RWR displays information that alerts you to what kinds of radar threats are on the battlefield. Look at the display. Notice the 9, 11, and the letter A. The symbols correspond to SA-9 and SA-11 SAMs, and the A represents a AAA unit. When a threat is first detected, you will hear a beep and its symbol will appear on the display. You will also hear a voice message from the APR-39 identifying the type of threat and whether it is in search, track, or launch mode. Its location is shown relative to you, with your aircraft being at the center of the display. The position of the threat symbol on the display gives you an indication of its distance and bearing. When the threat locks onto you, you will hear a steady tone and a triangle will appear around the symbol. When the threat fires, the symbol will begin to flash and you will hear a series of beeps. Let's watch this happen. In front of you is an SA-11 SAM site. Begin flying towards it. Don't worry, they can't hurt you. Okay, the SAM site just locked onto you. Notice how the diamond appeared around his symbol and you got the lock tone. In another moment, he'll launch. You've just been fired on. Notice the flashing symbol and the audible launch tone. Learn to react to this information quickly. An extra second can save your life. Now that you know how to identify radar threats, what should you do when they fire on you? The most important thing to remember is that if you fly nap of the Earth below 100 feet, enemy radar has a much more difficult time detecting you. If you are detected, drop as much altitude as possible and try to get hills or mountains between you and the radar source to block or disrupt the signal. If you are fired on by a radar missile, you'll need to use chaff to try to spoof the missile. Chaff consists of many strips of radar reflective aluminum that will appear similar to your aircraft in the missile's guidance system. The idea is to pop chaff while making rapid course changes. If done properly, the missile will be fooled into homing onto the chaff instead of you. Infrared missile avoidance works a little differently. IR missiles home onto the heat generated by your engines. The device used to spoof IR missiles is the AN/ALQ-144, also known as the disco ball. Now, the disco ball uses high and low frequency radiation transmitted by an electrically heated source to confuse IR missiles, causing them to miss. This device is fully automated, so all you need to do is make sure it's activated when you begin the mission. To activate the infrared jammer, press the I key. Well, that about wraps up this lesson. If you'd like, you can continue flying around the area, putting some of this new knowledge to use. You might want to fly around the SAM sites and see how your RWR reacts to them. When you're ready to end the lesson, press the escape key.